everyone. Well, welcome to Saturday night, and we have a special guest here. His name is Mark Sullivan, and he is from the band The Deep Roots, and he also has some of his band members with him. So, Mark, if you would like to introduce the band that you have there, by all means.
First drummer, my son James Sullivan.
Hello.
Hi.
James. I'm the drummer of the band.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
And our bass player Andy Oreski.
Okay.
Who,
Hi.
and then our guitar player Ryan Kerr.
Hi, Ryan. Hi. So, well, it's kind of interesting that you know my daughter and son-in-law, because my daughter took some pictures for you at one point, and I totally, I don't know why I didn't think of that when I was making all these like little things that I had to do, the thumbnails and everything, and I said, "How do you know Mark Sullivan?" She says, "Mom, I took their pictures." I said, "That's right." Now I know who that is. So I'm asking my husband, "Do you know Mark Sullivan?" He said, "No, I don't think so." So I do apologize that I did forget that. But
well, Chris is like a member of our family.
Yeah.
I think James has taken lessons for 5 or 6 years.
Really? Oh, okay. Yeah, he's very good. Very good drummer. So he's a very good teacher too. Well, I don't know. So she got into doing drums and percussion and all that kind of thing. So, well, that's enough about me and my daughter. I could run on and on about my daughters, So, but well, tell me, what first got you into music and how did your band form? Well, you can talk about that after because I do have some questions about the band there, but just how did you really get into music and how long have you been doing this?
So since I'm old, I mean, it's sort of a lot of parts of that question. Since the guys are here, at least for the Deep Roots, I had played in bands when I was in my 20s, but since James was born, he's been like drumming, and since he could talk, he was asking for drum lessons.
Oh, wow.
So we were able to resist until he was about 7, and he started to take drum lessons.
Is that right?
There's a parish festival near our house where they have bands every year, and James was, I don't know, 8 or so. He said, "Daddy, one day when I get big enough, I'm going to form a band so you can play your guitar again." One of those weird moments. I said, "James, next year we are going to be on that stage," and we were.
Oh my!
It was a little bit chaotic. Andy was there for that first gig. He was actually playing trombone instead of bass.
Oh, really?
And mandolin, and singing.
Oh, wow! He has multi-talented. Then he's very multi-talented.
Yes, he's probably the most talented of all the musicians in the band.
Not true. Don't say that. Cut that out.
What did you say? I missed that.
He wants to make edits already.
Yeah.
But the first couple of years, we did things a little bit backwards, and I would book gigs without really having a full band or songs, and that was pretty stressful. So it inspired one of the songs on our first album, Over Our Heads, and about that whole experience. And then that was 2014, then 2016. I worked with Ryan and Andy.
Oh,
So
okay.
Ryan and I connected, and he joined us, and that kind of solidified the band that we have now.
Oh, nice. Okay. So, what kind of music are you into? What's your genre? Would you?
So, I like to, just to describe to people, like somewhere between the Beatles, the Stones, Bob Dylan, and then their descendants.
Okay.
We're all music junkies, so we could start to list off names of very obscure bands. But so I would say that's sort of the genre. But I think in how we operate, I think I would say that probably we most relate to the group, the band. Kind of it's for equal voices. We're not really interested in following whatever the trends are that are out there. Almost like an instinctual push away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Just the focus on the songs being, real.
Mm-hmm. Good. Yeah. Well, it's more like into the classic rock style. You do that kind of thing, more rock, or would you consider it like that, or?
Yeah, I mean, uh, for the shorthand, just we like to be a loud rock and roll band. That's
Yeah,
definitely a lot of our gigs are outside where we can play as loud as we want.
that's nice.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's
Don't you just
important.
hate when you go into a place and they make you like, can't you turn that down some? you like, can't you make that a little softer? I mean, if you're a rock band, how can you do that? Really, so we've had those issues too. Because my husband's a bass player,
Hmm.
so he's in a couple bands, and it's just like we've had that issue several times where they told us to. We were even outside once, and they told us to go knock it down a bit, and I'm thinking, how can you do that?
Well, if
But
nobody calls the cops, you're not playing loud enough.
right,
we've
that's
we've
true.
conditioned our neighbors. So we try to practice at the same time every week, so they just know to leave. It's like, okay, Wednesday night at 4, you see their car pulling away.
Is that right? Okay.
Yeah,
So you guys had a little practice session before we started then?
yeah, that's our typical thing on late Wednesday afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice, nice.
So we
So,
have gigs coming up. I can plug for that Club Cafe on May 14th with
okay.
Demos. How do you pronounce his last name?
Papademos?
Papademos.
Oh, okay.
And then in
And where's
Forest
that at?
Hills, May
Forest
6th,
Hills. Mm-hmm.
we're doing a benefit for the Forest Hills Pool community
Oh,
event.
nice.
Um,
Well, if you can give me those dates, I'll put it in the information
okay,
section whenever. Okay. Yeah,
and
because
I'll
that'll
send
be
you the link to our Bandcamp page and our web page.
okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. So, so how would you how how is your creative process? Like, do you do the lyrics first and then the music, or the music and then the lyrics, or does it a combination of both at one time?
But these guys are all laughing because I could go on and on and on. This is like my favorite part of it, the
Okay,
creative
that's all right.
process.
You can go on. Well, they can come on if they can fit into the camera. I'll let them come on. Are they camera shy?
Yo.
So I guess a couple things for the creative process. For me, the writing of new music, I find that the most fun, and all four of us in the band write songs. It's sort of
Oh,
cool that
nice.
we're all like we all have our own processes, but you already know that there's the phase of initial excitement about a new song. You show everybody, and then there's the frustration points. Oh, I don't think this is any good. Um, but I guess for me, and other people have asked me about this, but I'll like wake up in the morning and there'll just be a song that's there, and I know that I have to get it down somehow. And usually it's like a 30-second increments of I take notes, like on post notes, and just put them in my pocket, and then I try to pull that together. And usually it takes me about 20 minutes to sort of pull like the whole thing together, where probably anybody else besides me would sort of recognize that as well, that's that song. Like if it was a piece of marble, like I could carve it all out and say, oh, that's a dog. Like you might not know that it's a Labrador Retriever, but it's sort of like that's the obvious parts. Um, and then for years, I tweak the lyrics and we work on things in practice, and it's just those million little details, like a sculptor that that are going from like carved in a piece of wax to the PA top. Things we were working on tonight, just a drum break, a little guitar thing, just keeping adding and perfecting those things
Mm-hmm.
is what makes it come to life.
Mm-hmm.
So in some respect, even if I bring in some chords and the words, I consider that like the pizza crust, and then when we get together and start adding the things, sort of those are the toppings to the pizza, and what makes it something
Yeah,
cool.
finished. Yeah. So it takes a while to actually perfect it.
if I ever get there. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Well,
put a
it's
date,
like,
but
yeah,
I'm always
yeah,
tweaking
tweaking it.
things, and
Yeah, you tweak it a little here and there. Yeah. Well, that's like anything. I think, any art form, people tend to do that. Uh, I go nuts when I'm painting something too because I'll tweak it. It keeps, but I have to stop at a certain point because sometimes you, especially with art, you kind of can mess things up if you go too far. So, but I can understand tweaking the music. Yeah,
but
I
I
think
think yeah, I think as I get older, I realize that how much more important that the details are.
mhm.
So probably some of the songs I wrote in my 20s. I mean, it's that after the first 20 minutes, there's a song, and then I'm like, oh, I wish that line is kind of sloppy. And then when you're listening, I mean, I sort of appreciate other songwriters and what they do, and sort of what song is really good, and then what you can tell if they just sort of dashed off.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think that is an amazing way of doing things. I mean, to be able to think of lyrics, to think about the music, and put it all together, it just is amazing to me because I'm not very musical. Like my husband, when he does, he plays by ear, and he'll practice, and I'm thinking, how does he know exactly where those notes fall? It just is amazing to me. So it is kind of a unique process for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I don't
Well,
really have an explanation of how the songs get in there. I guess the other thing I'll say is that the songs come kind of randomly, but they kind of come um, when they're sort of needed.
mhm.
That, if there's a certain direction that the band is going, then all of a sudden I'll have an idea that we sort of need, this type of song, and that just will sort of be there.
Do you
Um,
take it from life experience, or it can be anything?
they just kind of come there, and then after a while, as I perfect the lyrics, it's like, oh, I think this is kind of about that, or
Mhm, mhm.
just through the
Yeah.
editing process, then sort of more
Mhm,
reveals what it's about, and sometimes it just goes off in other directions.
mhm. Yeah, interesting. Very interesting. Well, maybe you could tell me a little bit about the Deep Roots and your band. Besides who's there, you could talk about them. You can talk about them. They're there, but don't talk behind their back or anything.
um, so how long do you usually are these like how long are your episodes usually?
Usually, between 15 minutes and a half an hour, but
Okay.
yeah, I like it when it's a little bit longer because you get more information. Some people don't really talk very well, so it's hard sometimes for people. But yes, so
Yeah.
talk about it, how it started and all that.
Um,
I know you said that you worked with those two guys.
yeah. So I think one thing that we've done a lot of community events. We've done a lot of fundraiser events, and
Mhm.
what's that?
We're the unofficial Forest Hills band.
Yeah, but the house band of the borough of Forest Hills.
Oh,
Probably
okay.
80% of our gigs have been within Forest Hills, just because
Okay.
I mean James and I live here. Andy lives close by. Um, yeah.
Nice, nice. So
um,
it's yeah, it's relative. Well, I'm on the other side of you. I'm near Century 3, but I used to live out towards that way.
hmm,
We used to live in Whitaker. So,
okay.
yeah, and I had worked at one point in Forest Hills, but that was a while ago. But that's how you all got together, was you were from work, and then your son, which
Hmm.
is it. Yeah, so it all started. So when did you actually start? What year did you start playing together?
I guess 2014 was when we first started to do some gigs, but probably when Ryan joined us in 2016. That's sort of the
Hmm.
beginning of our, the official period.
Okay.
Um, I
And
think I think one thing that's fairly unique about us is we're pretty much intrinsically or internally motivated. Um, when we play, once a week, our practice sessions, it's not like a James Brown where, yelling at people for missing chord changes. But when we play, it's always a good time, and we'll do fun covers or we'll do whatever we want.
mhm.
And then, a lot of times when we play out, if even if people aren't paying attention, still, it just it depends that we're trying to please ourselves and playing the best that we can, as long as we think the songs are good. We're not really upset. I guess another way of saying it, it'd be nicer if we were able to reach more people, but it's not like a showstopper that we don't.
It's so different today. Like when I was younger, well, it's a long time ago. You would go to a bar and the place was packed. The people were into the music. They were dancing. It was so good. The atmosphere was always so good. Now you go, people are sitting there, they're not doing anything, they're not paying attention. Like you say, they don't pay attention. And it's like I'm sitting there watching all this and I'm thinking, wow, that must be hard to get up there and play. But these guys enjoy it, and that's the way it is. I mean, you enjoy what you're doing. It comes from the heart, it's really, you're into it. And it doesn't matter, I guess, what's going on around.
Yeah, and I guess the thing is that also that the number of people interested is not zero either. Like, since we've done a lot of events where we work, a few weeks ago, someone stopped me. It's like, oh, I saw you playing this band. It's like, that was really inspiring to me that, you guys put yourself out there. It's hard to, it can be embarrassing to play for your coworkers. So, it's interesting, you notice, probably a few years ago when she saw us playing, someone else saying, I can tell you guys put a lot of work into that. Crafting your songs is not something that's thrown together.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some people do appreciate it, even if it's only like people appreciate, going to like a classic car rally or something.
Right, right.
Even though that's not your thing.
You have the people that follow you too. They come. There's certain people, and that helps too. When they start to follow you, they know you're playing and stuff. So that's nice. So,
we're still looking for those people, but yeah.
Oh, what's that? You don't have those people yet? Yeah. You don't have followers?
I should also add, as far as the Deep Roots, Ryan's wife, Erin, is also a singer-songwriter, and she plays with us for a lot of gigs as well.
Nice.
We'll play guitar and sing harmony, so.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, Natalie used to play in the one band that my husband and her husband were in.
Do they still play with him? Or? Do they still play with Evan Dean, or?
No, I could go on and on. So, well, how did COVID affect you as far as performing? Did you have any?
So, yeah, all our gigs in 2020 got canceled. But even before that, Ryan is the more technically savvy for us, and he had already been working with the digital software. So even before COVID, we were all set up with digital software, and then through Dropbox, we were able to collaborate from our houses already. So when the lockdown started, we just shifted our efforts to working on our first album, Never Coming Back, which we released in the fall of 2020. So it ended up working out also during the lockdown. That's when I started to get on social media. I hadn't been on Facebook or any of that. I put together a website for the band and started the blog. Started to connect with other people out there doing music on the scale that we are, which was tremendously encouraging.
Yes.
Probably the best part, so we couldn't practice for a few months, and then the first time where we were able to play electric in person, that was like the best practice ever. We were like ready to blow the roof off the place.
Yeah. Yeah, that that was a hard time for everyone, not being able to get together. And I think that's another thing that, let me ask you about is that NEPA scene? What is that all about?
So that stands for Northeast Pennsylvania. And just, I went to undergrad at the University of Scranton.
Oh.
And that's sort of, at least the early part of my musical beginning. Just some guys in my dorm freshman year, we would just get together and listen to music constantly. That's sort of where I got I listened to some classic rock things in high school, but in the late 80s, early 90s, as music was expanding in that area, met a lot of guys that introduced me to a lot of new things. My friend Mark, I remember, came back from spring break our freshman year with this album by the band, the Vulgar Boatmen, with You and Your Sister. And we had been listening to music all year, but for me, that was the tipping point where, that's it. I have to buy a guitar. I have to learn how to play. I have to form a band. At that point, I was 20 years old when I bought my first guitar. And that group of guys, we ended up forming a couple bands. In our one when we were in college, and then one in our 20s when we were in Pittsburgh. And then that video I posted of the Apollo Quantum Vision, that's 3 of those guys, and that was the first gig as that band.
Okay.
So 30 years later, they're still going. It's been just still doing the music, and I find that very inspiring. That the group of us, it's been a lifelong thing.
Yeah, I think when you're a musician, it's always there.
But,
Like Steve, he started, I guess, when he was in his early teens. And I think when he saw the Beatles, he always says this, when he saw the Beatles on Ed Sullivan show, that's when he really got inspired. And, like even if you have like a time period where you're not playing, it's always there with him anyway. He's always listening to music. He was always into it, and now it's more so. He's been doing the music that he's been playing is from the 90s and 80s, and with this Kremers band. So he wasn't too into it, but now he's starting to like it. And I always liked some of that stuff that came from that era.
But seeing my friends play, one of the things that jumped out at me is that like if when we were 21, if someone came and said, "Yeah, I'll make you a deal. You can have everything that you want now," which were the record label deal, CDs available in the store, be on MTV, have a write up in Rolling Stone. That's it. You're going to be disillusioned, and then you go play golf or something like that, or you'll be somewhat obscure your whole career, but when you're in your 50s, you're still going to be playing. You're still going to be thinking this is my best stuff. We're still going for it.
Right.
And as much as you'd like all that other stuff, it's like it's pretty sweet, even if you are obscure, just to keep doing it.
Right.
Still learning. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's an inspiration. It's something that comes from within. To me, like my artwork, I was off and on with art all my life. I think at the age of 11, I started painting, but you have these places where you just can't do it. And I've been doing this now for at least 12 years. I mean, it's been, straight. So yeah, it's always there. It's always there. So, well, I guess I wanted to ask you who some of your favorite artists have been, and what artists really inspired you growing up, and some of the people that you maybe performed with that may have inspired you.
Bands, and I'm always looking for new music, but the group, the band, had a huge influence on me. Watching The Last Waltz over and over again, it was sort of my roadmap. Getting into music. Definitely the Vulgar Boatmen. It's a band that's over 30 years. The cool thing about the Vulgar Boatmen, one of the main guys, and it was a college professor at the University of Florida. So he had a family, full-time job, and he did the band on the side, and they just made extraordinary, detailed music. I think it took maybe 4 or 5 years to make their first album, but that was always an inspiration. And I guess for the guys that I played with, since they've walked out, that I guess I've always seen myself as kind of the least talented member of any of the bands that I was in, and it's not because I'm not talented, but just the guys that I played with, they're just some amazing, talented people, and they're still releasing music, and I can Dave Popek, Mark Nelson, Andrew Plonsky, John Coyne, the guys in this band. It's just
and I'm sure good.
Those guys they're just as talented as
Yeah.
as probably anybody that might be well known, but
Yes.
just through whatever circumstances they're not.
Yeah, it's a tough business, to be noticed because there's so much competition. And then today it's even worse because you got this, I don't know what this music is today because it doesn't, it just doesn't do much for me. But, you just, I guess if you're young and they can distort your voice and, you've got it made, but it's so different. It's so different. And it's just a hard, I mean, there's so many talented people. That's why I like doing this with people from Pittsburgh, because I want people to see how much talent is here, that's hidden. It's like a hidden talent. No one knows about people around here. So hopefully, it opens some people's eyes.
Yeah, I think between you and Nicole and Natalie, you guys have sort of like a good beat on arts in Pittsburgh, and sort of, I think I would call it sort of the real Pittsburgh art culture.
Yes.
There's something, it's a sort of like, this is the Pittsburgh version of something else someplace else, but
right.
I've read a lot of the interviews Natalie's done with other Pittsburgh musicians, and I think that she gets to the heart of the people that are the backbone of music here.
Yes. Yes, she's done some really great interviews with people. And I think that's interesting. And Nicole, she interviews different authors, and of course, Chris, he just knows so many people too,
Right.
with his playing. But now there was something that you wanted to talk about. You were asking me if it would be okay. And I'm fine with anything you have to say. So
I think I've worked in all my my big points.
okay.
I guess the one, or if we're wrapping up sort of the almost back to the beginning, that I guess for me, my earliest memories of being alive are to be standing on my tiptoes, putting a record on my parents' record player, "Let It Be" by the Beatles.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, that's one of my earliest memories. And then I also remember having a pretend record player underneath my bed, where I would pretend to play records, and I would sort of make up my own songs on them when I was maybe 4 years old.
Oh,
but
that's pretty cute. I mean, that's really interesting.
The one thing that, and looking at your initial questions, that I had never thought about was, I guess, since I was 4 years old and my parents for some reason let me work the record player, and we didn't have headphones, and we lived in a small house, that pretty much I dominated the airwaves for our house. And I've always thought that what I'm listening to is the best thing ever, and everyone else should be listening to that as well. And yeah, I guess I'm trying to be more. Yeah, and I do try to listen for what other people would like and pass those things along. But yeah,
Well,
it's just sort of a way that I'm wired. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's kind of normal for people that start out young. They want other people to get into it just like they are. I have to ask you another question. You went to Carnegie Mellon?
For grad school, yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I went to the Heinz School.
Okay.
Yeah, my majors there were like leadership and information systems, which changed so significantly that I have such a hard time now with any kind of new technology. But I mean, I worked through it. It's just kind of funny. And but you went for music, right?
No, I went for professional writing.
Oh, writing. Okay. Wow.
It was my plan to be a freelance writer and a musician, and I would just write and do music. So
that's cool. Yeah.
I guess that's kind of what I do, and it's it's cool that my son plays, and then my wife and daughter are also musicians as well. So
Really? Oh, wow. Yeah,
my
see,
daughter's
that's
younger, so we're starting to pull that together.
yeah, I think that's how Natalie got more into it was because of Steve, being a bass player. And we would always go to the Blues Fest.
Hmm.
And the one year when we went, there was a group called Indigenous, and the drummer was a woman. And right after that, she went and bought her drums, and that's when she started the drumming lessons.
Mm.
And I says, it's just, but she had played drums. Well, I guess it was a snare drum when she was in grade school. She was taking lessons, and then she gave it up. But she always had that. She was always good with the beats and things. She could do that, and I guess it's just inside you. Like I said, I can't sing. I can't do any of that. And you would think being an artist, because sometimes that goes together, like John Lennon and his art, and all these musicians kind of do art on the side, like Tony Bennett. He was a good artist until he started to get I guess Alzheimer's. But a lot of these musicians. Now I'm looking at paintings behind you. Are these paintings that you did, or someone in your family?
So that's a painting done by a friend of our family, Tom McGowie.
Okay.
I took that picture maybe when I was 10 or 11,
Oh,
and he did several. He liked my pictures. His wife was a friend of my mom,
okay.
so we have a couple of his paintings down here. Just they didn't have a home, and I always liked the area in Maine where we would go on vacation, where my grandfather went on vacation when he was a boy. So
Yeah. Nice. Nice. Well, I guess we've covered just about everything. I mean, it was very interesting, all the information, and I was so glad to meet the rest of the guys there. If they want to come back on, they're kind of shy.
actually, they went to go grab some dinner.
They left you by yourself. Okay. Well, it was very nice to meet you. I really enjoyed this, like I said, and it will. Well, thanks again. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
this.
thank
part.
you.
Okay, it was a lot of fun. So I hope
Okay.
you enjoyed it.
No,
I
thank
know
you.
I did.
It's the first time I've ever been interviewed, actually.
Oh, really? Well, you did
51
good.
years old, yeah.
Yeah, you did good. It was fun. So I had a
Okay.
lot of questions for you, and as I said, I mean, I keep going on and on. I could go on and on, but there was a lot to cover. So, all right. Well, you take care.
Okay, thank
And,
you.
okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye bye.